This video is going to show a program that uses multiple data types. In particular, the program will get three pieces of information about the user and then display that information. So we can get the first piece of information, let's say the first name. First name is going to be a string. We'll call it first name. And then we need to get that information. We'll do that by using cin. Since we're using cin, we also have iostream in the standard library. Let's test to see if that's working. Compile and then execute the program, and it waits for me to type something. I'll say Alex, that's my first name, and the program exits. That's a good start. We can do a bit better by adding what is your what is your first name. That's good. And then we'll say first name and what it was. There, that gives us more context. So we compile and then test. What is your first name? It's Alex. There's my first name. And we will add a new line just to make that output a little nicer. That looks good. Okay. So what other information do we need? We need to get the first letter of the last name. So since it's just a letter, we can use a char, and we can get the last name letter. And we can get that from the user using cin, last name letter. And then we can output that information, last name letter. Just making sure that works. Okay, let's compile. And run the a.out. First name Alex, and now it's waiting. So I'll say last name starts with a T. Okay, and it outputs a T. That's good. I'm going to clear this. And now we'll add some more context around our output, which is what is the first letter of your last name, semicolon, and we'll say cout. Actually, let's just take a look at how that looks now. User.cpp compiles execute Alex, and my last name begins with a T, and we output a T. Okay, that's fine. I do prefer to have a little bit of a space after the question mark, so I just added a space after that question mark. And the next thing we can do is we can take that first name output and connect that with the first letter of the last name output. So we'll go with last name, comma, first name, as we see sometimes. So it'll be last name. I'm going to copy paste, and then we want to have a dot and then a comma with the space, and then we'll have the first name. And we like to have a new line just to give some spacing. So I'm going to delete these previous lines, which are useful for development, but now we've expanded on them. And let's take a look at what this is. A compile. Oh, we've got an error. It is line 23. We expected before the cout, we expected a semicolon, and that's correct. It's a very common error. I make these regularly. They're easy to fix. So what is your first name? Alex. What is the first letter of your last name? It was T, so T, comma, Alex. There you go, kind of like on a doctor's note or something like that. So the last piece of information we need is to get the age. So the age could be an int. Age could be a short. It could be a character as well, because a character has goes up to 127 as a positive value, and most humans don't live beyond 127. But just to be a little more general, we'll use an int, and we'll call that the age. And so we'll get the age from the user. by asking them, so what is your age? We get that from the user, and then we'll say you are age years old. Let's test to see. We wrote quite a few lines of code. It's a dangerous thing to do. Let's see if it works. Nope, we had an error. Okay, line 28. There's no match for this arrow operator. And actually, what I did is I put the arrows in the wrong direction for cout. The arrow should be pointing to cout because the text is going to cout, whereas for cin, the entered data is going into age. So that's why we have the arrows pointing at age. Let's try compiling again. No errors. What is your first name? Alex. What is the first letter of your last name? T. What is your age? 28. You're 28 years old. That works fine. Let's move the code for getting the age before the output of the name we had here. So I'm going to collect the age information early on, along with collecting the first name and last name's first letter, and then we'll output. We can also combine together the information of the last name and first name. So let's add in the age. So it'll say the last name, period, comma, the first name is age years old. And it looks like I forgot a semicolon and another one here. So we just added in these three lines of code in place of these 3 lines of code. And this should give us an output that looks a little bit nicer. It's all one line of output is what we're going for. So Alex, T, 28, T comma Alex is 28 years old. There you go.